Guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our macOS development with AppKit tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look yet again at how we can integrate SwiftUI view hierarchies into our AppKit based Mac apps. However, unlike in the last video where we took a look at NSHostingController and view controller containment, in order to achieve this, we are going to take a look at NSHostingView. There are some differences, primarily that NSHostingView is a NSView subclass, whereas NSHostingController is an NSViewController subclass. And the NSHostingController lends itself better suited, like it lends itself more to replacing entire screens in your AppKit applications rather than parts of it, though you can make that happen. You can have your hosting controller only be part of your entire screen in your AppKit based application alongside other views. That's the whole point of view controller containment. But NSHostingView lends itself more so to that latter point, to being able to put SwiftUI views next to AppKit views in the AppKit-based Mac apps. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. Now, what are we going to build? Well, today we're going to build an almost identical application to last time, where we have a segmented control and a chart that displays United States national debt data from the Treasury in SwiftUI charts. All right. Now, every time we select a segment in our segmented control, that chart will change. However, the segmented control in this example is going to be the native macOS NS segmented control rather than being a SwiftUI picker with state associated with it. So with that change, there were some changes that I needed to make to the debt chart view, SwiftUI view that we had last time. So if we go into Xcode and I go to my charts group here and we go to debt chart view, let's see here. All right. Now, if you watched the last video, which you should, because we're going to be using the SwiftUI views that I went over last time, with some modifications, of course. In the debt chart view, we got rid of our state variable, so that we got rid of our variable marked with @state property wrapper, and then we got rid of our vstack. So now all we have is a view that takes in the data and an integer indicating the chart type, which is going to be passed from the selected segment of our segmented control. Okay? Now, inside of our body, we simply have a if statement making sure that if the chart type is equal to 0, then we display the debt line chart. Otherwise, we display the debt bar chart. And that view is literally that simple. All right, so let's go ahead then And we're going to close out of this SwiftUI view. My goodness, excuse me. Now let's go ahead and inside of our controller, above our det records array, I'm going to have a hosting view, NSHostingView instance. So we'll say var hostingView equals NSHostingView. And this view will take in a single parameter in its initializer. And that is the root view, the SwiftUI view that it should show. And we're going to pass it an instance of det chart view. Now, what we'll have to do here is we will have to pass it some kind of integer. So we'll say 0 for now. And then it requires we give it an array. Now, we can't just give it our det records array because Swift won't allow it. So what we'll do is we will just have a empty array here for now, just to satiate Xcode. And what we can do here is inside of our configure method now, let's see here. We will say HostingView equals NSHostingView with a root view of det chart view and then we will pass it a chart type okay. We'll say HostingView equals NSHostingView with a root view of det chart view, and we'll pass it a chart type of 0 yet again. But instead of an empty array, we'll pass it det records like that. And there we go. Now we have our NSHostingView initialized properly. You could, I imagine, have this in an initializer, be initialized and all that stuff. But then that would require that the type annotation have a generic type parameter, and frankly, I don't want to deal with that. So we're doing it this way. All right. Now that we have our hosting view, we need to configure it for programmatic constraints. So we'll say hosting view dot translates auto resizing mask into constraints equals false. View add subview hosting view like that. And last but not least, we need to actually constrain this. And once we constrain it, that'll do for our actual UI. So we'll say hosting view dot top anchor dot constraint equal to view, not view. We'll say chart type picker dot bottom anchor with a constant of 20. So there's 20 points of space between these two views. And then the rest will say hosting view dot leaning anchor dot constraint equal to view leading anchor, hosting view trailing anchor dot constraint is equal to view trailing anchor, and then hosting view bottom anchor dot constraint is equal to view bottom anchor, like that. All right, there we go. And that is our user interface laid out. The last thing that we need to do is we need to update this hosting view's root view every single time the selection in our segmented control changes. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. I have an action method called chart type changed. This takes in a sender of type NS segmented control. And what we'll do here is we will simply say let selected segment equals sender dot selected segment, and then we will say hosting view equals NS hosting, actually no, let's see, we'll say hosting view dot root view equals det chart view, and we will pass it selected segment and our det records, like that. All right, and that should be it. That's all we should need to do. Let's go ahead and run our code. We have a successful build. And here's our application. So now we see we do in fact have our chart being displayed here. And just to confirm to myself, and one thing you can also do to make sure that everything is as it should be, to make sure that the chart data is properly being displayed, you can use VoiceOver for an audio graph. So what I'm going to do is go to the audio graph rotor, and I'm going to play the audio graph. Yep. Pretty much what I expected. And then let's change the type of chart. So we'll change it to bar chart. And now you can see we see a bar chart instead of our line chart. We can change it back to line chart, and now it's a line chart. Bar, now it's a bar chart. And now I'm going to, again, play the audio chart, or audio graph. For some of these, it might take a second, but when you play these audio graphs, it should sound different. The audio charts for bar and line charts do sound different. All right. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys, on how we can integrate SwiftUI view hierarchies in our AppKit-based applications. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.